Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I am your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I am on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Today I got a wonderful guest and a good friend of mine, a buddy from Arizona, Josh Kirchner, the Dialed In Hunter, for those of you who are on Instagram. He is somebody who I've always looked up to, and he is someone who, when I went to start my website and blog, I really wanted to reach out to and get information. And he's been just a big help and an amazing person and a quality person in the hunting world. And I just want to welcome you to the show today. So Josh, thanks for being on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm honored to talk to you a bit here.
Yeah, our pleasure. I think, social media is so cool and it only lets you get so much of a picture of who a person is. And I know that I had you on our website and the blog series for This Is How I Hunt back when I first launched the blog not too while ago. But I wanted to get you on this podcast to dig deeper, talk about some topics in regards to hunting and your take on things. But before we go any further, why don't you introduce yourself to all the listeners?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Josh. I started a blog probably 5-6 years ago, something like that. And reason why I started it was I dove into hunting real heavy, and I was having a real hard time trying to learn everything. Like, it's kind of like there's a huge learning curve with hunting, and when you don't have somebody there to show you every single step, it's kind of a struggle. So what I decided to do in light of that was start a blog and write about it and kind of document my journey learning how to hunt, basically. And I hunted all through when I was a kid, not a ton though. It was like once a year with my dad. Never really went further than that. We never filled any tags, but that was totally fine because I learned to appreciate that all the little things that surround hunting before I ever was fortunate enough to fill any tags. So I started this blog, and I just kind of wanted to show people that hunting is hard, and that's okay. Like that, like it's supposed to be, And when you go out and you don't get anything, that's totally fine. Don't feel like a failure, because it's normal, especially if you're a bow hunter, man. Like, you better be used to failing if you are a bow hunter. Like, you better be able to take that stuff. So that's why I started writing, and now I do a bunch of freelance writing for various companies within the hunting industry, and just feel super, super fortunate to be able to do that stuff. So that's where I kind of am today.
Yeah. Well, it's always fun to see your name pop up on different articles. And I know Go Hunt is a huge resource in the hunting industry, and you are a consistent contributor to all their articles. So how did you end up getting connected with Go Hunt?
Yeah, that was kind of surreal for me. Okay. Cause like I was sitting there watching TV one day, and he's going to laugh if he hears this, but I was sitting there watching TV one day, and I get an instant message from Brady Miller, and I knew who he was and everything, you know what I mean? Like, I watched his videos and stuff, and I was kind of scared to answer it because I saw who messaged me. It's like, why the heck is he messaging me?
Right.
And then I finally looked at it, and he apparently he was following my blog for a while, and he just never reached out to me about it, never commented on anything, and he asked me if I wanted to do some freelance work for Go Hunt, and I was like, absolutely. That was like, I think 2-3 years ago, something like that, and I've been a consistent writer for them ever since. Super blessed to be able to write as much as I do for them.
That's so cool. I think that is a great lesson in life. Life happens, but good things come to people who put in the work. You put in the work to continually give towards other people in producing your blog and all that. And my whole message that I really preach through the Soulful Hunter podcast is that you cannot outgive good. And you
Right.
ended up in return getting great things happening out of you taking the step forward to give to others.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for people to take note. Not me, like don't take note of me, okay, but just that whole what you just said there. I get messages every now and then. You might as well, of people that kind of want to. Everyone wants to be in the hunting industry, right? Like if you're a
Right.
hunter, like you want to do that, right? And when I started, like me personally, when I started writing, I didn't start writing to get into the industry. Like I started writing to kind of just work out my own stuff. And then maybe I can inspire some people that were newer to hunting along the way. I never looked to get anything out of it. And I would have been, I mean, I wrote basically to myself for 2 years before I really knew anyone was reading it. And I think if anybody wants, because it's a good dream, right? It's cool. Like if you want to like make films, you want to like get in and get into the industry and everything, that's awesome. Okay, but like you need to do it for the right reasons. And you
Right.
need to do it, and you need to ask yourself the decision, like, would I be doing that if I wasn't getting whatever? You're getting free product, you're getting paid, whatever. Like, would you be doing that if you weren't being compensated?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think if your answer is yes, then keep doing it.
Yeah, I think that's huge and missed quite often. And if you don't have the true passion inside yourself, things will fizzle out pretty quickly.
Oh
Typically,
yeah.
it's like the 1 year mark is like, if you can make it past 1 year and you're still doing it and you're still enjoying it, then obviously something's right. But it's expensive, man. I don't know how much it costs for you to keep your website up and going, but I know for the fact of my website and then how much it costs to get a podcast up and going. I mean, I'm putting a lot of money into something that there's no, well, initial return. I get the return of just enjoyment and giving to the next generation of hunters and giving back to the hunting community. But
Yeah.
but ultimately there's no money in it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, and in essence, like that's you getting paid, right? Like it's you're getting like you're content,
Yeah.
because you feel like you're helping people, and you are, okay? You feel like you're helping people and you're doing something that you're passionate about, and that in itself is fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the career path I chose, teaching. Yeah, you can always tell how well you are as a teacher or as a coach based off of your wedding invites, not necessarily off your paycheck.
Oh, nice.
It's like,
Oh,
oh, okay, the kids actually did enjoy what I was doing. I
right,
made an
right.
impact.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, so give a little more detail into your journey of becoming a hunter. I know you were raised in a family that hunted. Your father taught you how to hunt, but it wasn't something that was more or less a lifestyle. It was just something that you did once in a while, every now and then, every year. And it wasn't until your 20s that you truly dove into the hunting lifestyle. Go ahead and expand on that for all our listeners.
Yeah, so for years and years and years, all through my childhood, um, let me back up a second. I was born. I was born in New Mexico. Okay, I don't remember that. I lived there for like a year, and then I moved out to New York, Queens, New York, with my family, and I lived there for 8 years. So I had never seen a mountain until I was 9 years old. Okay.
Wow.
Before I moved out here though to Arizona, my dad would get these he would get these hunting magazines, and he would get one in particular called Arizona Highways, which kind of like there was all sorts of photos of Arizona and the animals in Arizona and lots of stuff surrounding hunting and fishing in Arizona. And I would read, dude, I don't know, I can't accurately tell you how many times I like peered through that book, that magazine. Like, so I was essentially fantasizing about the West for years before I ever moved out here. And when I finally did, we ended up going on our first hunt, which was actually my first time camping ever. I never slept in a tent before. And it was super cold and I was freaked out, I was kind of scared and stuff. And we had some elk walk through our camp that night, which was like, my heart was beating out of my chest, right? When I'm sitting there, I could hear them like stomping on the ground and stuff, moving through camp. And there was so much that I didn't know, that I never experienced. And but it was exciting at the same time, because it was wild.
Yeah.
That was super wild to me, like, you compare that to like what I do today, and like that's like totally not anything, right? But when I was a kid, that was so wild to me. And so then the next day, my dad took me out and actually got to show me some deer, and that was the first time I ever saw a deer before. And
Wow.
Yeah, I never saw any deer in New York ever. The only thing I ever saw was smog and cars over there. And yeah, New York I have no desire.
And some rats probably every now and then.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have no desire to ever go back to New York. But yeah, I saw my first deer, and it was just kind of like, wow, that was really captivating to me and stuff. And every year after that, we would make this annual deer trip, and we'd go up, and I'd always look forward to seeing deer, and we never got anything, but it just was something that kind of grew and grew and grew. And then as I got older, I was like, man, dude, I just really want to like try, to be successful at this. And right around that time, I also got a little bit more into fitness. Okay. And with fitness comes, you start thinking about your diet and all this other stuff, and you start thinking about what you're putting in your body fuel wise, and the whole clean meat thing kind of was captivating to me as well. So that was a big driving factor. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And the first animal I decided to do it on was a bear. I'd like that, like, I'm a person, like, when I get into something, I'm just going to like jump in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, deer? Nah, I'm going to go bear hunting, because that sounds like the most Western thing that I could do. And
I freaking love it. I think that's what drew me to you so much in the first place, is that the first animal I killed and truly hunted was black bear also.
Yeah, I did everything backwards, man. Yeah, like I got it. Like
I haven't shot a deer. I've shot bears, but I haven't shot a deer.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. So, anyways, went on a hunt and really put the work in. I remember going out every single weekend and just loving it, like not knowing what I'm doing at all. I'm like, okay, I don't know what bear sign looks like. I'm like, okay, this is what the books tell me bear sign is. So it looks like there's a bear walking around here somewhere. I still haven't seen it yet, though. And the first evening that we were out, my buddy was out in another area, sitting in a blind waiting for some deer to walk by. So I just kind of stayed back because I didn't want to walk through where he was hunting. So I sat on this water, and right before dark, I see this big freaking black thing walking across the hill. I'm like, get out of here, dude. Like, I didn't even know what I was seeing. Like, it's like one of those things you hear like people do like a double take. I did a triple take because I was like, I did it. I found a bear. Like, what the heck? And never got a shot at him. And ever since then, I have been absolutely relentless with those things, because there is no other animal out there, in my opinion, that is as intriguing as a bear. At least when you talk about game animals. And the reason I think that is because, A, you never know what they're going to do. Okay, like you could be watching a bear, like watching a deer. Deer are pretty predictable. You watch a bear, you don't know what he's going to do. He might roll around like a dog. He might climb a tree. He might stand up and scratch his back. I've seen bears fall out of trees. Like all sorts of, also it's entertaining watching them, like watching how delicate they can be. Like pulling off food from brush, amazing to me. Okay.
Yeah,
But
I
then
was always
also
really
they're
taken back
powerful.
by that when they're getting blueberries off these bushes, and I'm like, dude, I'm having a hard time with just my hands and fingers. Like, how are they doing this with their lips, and what they're doing is foraging around? It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. But then watch them tear up a fallen tree, and just how they just effortlessly move this big tree trunk out of the way to get underneath it where the termites are or whatever. You know what I mean? Like the
Yep.
power is, you have to respect that. Um, so yeah, and then the other thing is you don't see a lot of them, at least down here. You guys got way more bears than we do down here, but down here, if I go out for a weekend and I see one bear, that's a success to me,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, so that's how I got really, really hooked, really got into hunting like that. Was game meat was a super driving factor, adventure. Just wanted to get outside and do something different, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just experience what I call it the real world out there,
Oh, that's cool.
you know.
What season were you hunting the bear when you first started getting after him?
August.
Yep.
Yeah, so super hot. I got to hunt like one day. It's during the monsoon season here, and we got rained out, and the tent flooded, and of course, like after that, that was a lesson to me. I didn't have rain gear. You know what I mean? I just didn't have that stuff yet.
Yeah.
So I vowed after that point, I'm like, okay, this year I'm buying rain gear, so next year I don't have to go home. You know?
Yeah,
So,
you learn a lot when you are out in the field, trial by air.
oh yeah, for sure.
So when you got into hunting, you pursued bear, and that was like your ultimate hunt. At what point did you start transitioning into wanting to pursue the backpack hunt,
That's
getting into the backcountry?
yeah, man. I never wanted to when I was younger. I remember distinctly. I was driving. It was probably 2 in the morning, and my buddy and I were driving to the lake to go fishing, and we were having a discussion. Hunting season was right around the corner. It was probably like May or June, and August was right around the corner. And I was like, you know what, man? I don't know how those guys do that backpack hunting stuff. I'm never going to do that. That's something I'm just not into it. I have no desire. How are you supposed to put everything that you need in a backpack and go, and then you kill something? Like how are you going to get it out? It was just my ignorance to the whole topic. But um then I bought a book, okay, which I'm sure touched many people. It was Bow Hunting the Backcountry. Everybody knows this book that's into this stuff by Cameron Haynes. And that was so inspiring to me. And it was like, the more I read it, I was like, maybe I can do this. This sounds really cool, like after seeing how he did it and how like he kind of like what he was bringing with him and the food and everything. But there's like backpack hunting is super intimidating because I mean, you look back, like look at like car camping. Dude, back then, the whole bed of my truck is filled up. Okay, like
Yeah.
with stuff that I quote unquote need.
Right, you brought the whole house with you.
How am I going to get that in a backpack?
Yeah.
So that was my thinking on it. And then so I finished that book and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this, man. But then what I was faced with, which I'm sure a lot of people are, is this stuff is so expensive, man. Like all the gear to do it,
Yeah.
to be able to, and you don't have to get the most ultralight stuff out there, but like to be able to just do it, like to be able to like have a stove and a water filter and that stuff's not cheap. And I remember it took me a couple years to like buy all the gear, and then I finally got it and I was like, okay, now I'm ready. And then my wife
Yeah.
and I,
Yeah.
we ended up doing backpacking trips together, and that's how I started doing backpacking.
Hey man, you got to feed the beast somehow. I actually started working at REI just so I could get gear cheaper.
There you go.
I was a full-time teacher and I coached 4 sports, and I worked at REI so I could get the homie hookup.
Heck yeah, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, you do what you can, man.
Yeah.
The stuff is expensive, life is expensive, but when you're out in the wilderness, having your gear dialed in
Hmm.
is so important.
Yeah, yeah. But I think something to note though is that I think some people think that they need to spend $4,000 to be able to pull off a backpack hunt, and that's just simply not true. Like you can get by with a foam mattress. You don't got to buy a blow up mattress. You can get one of them things for $35. That's what I started off with, the
Yep.
big huge Thermarest pad. Um, you don't have, like, you can get a stove for $30. Like, you don't have to have a. I mean, I don't want. Some of them are like $100. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you don't have to have all that stuff. What's going to get you out on a backpack hunt is between your ears. That that's
Yeah.
that's what's going to push you to make you go out there and take on the challenge of backpack hunting.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things about backpack hunting is the idea of grit, and you're only going to get as far as you push yourself.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reward in that, is that when you challenge yourself physically and mentally, you not only grow as the hunter, but you're growing as a person. You become a stronger, more aligned, more connected person with your own identity and your own self. And when you come back to reality or the real world or society or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
when you come back to it, you are refreshed, but you're also stronger and a better person for it.
Yeah, dude. Which is one of the reasons backpack hunting sticks out to me so much, and why I kind of grasped onto it a lot, because after I started doing that stuff, man, when you get back to the truck, even if you don't have an animal with you, I'm telling you what, dude, you feel accomplished.
Absolutely.
You feel like, heck yeah, like yeah, I did that. Yeah, I spent 7 days back there. You dang right I did that.
Yeah.
Um, which is something that I mean, you can get that feeling when you're not backpack hunting, absolutely, but I just think it's more prevalent. Like when you really, because that stuff, when you get out there, I remember going on my first 10-day hunt. That was intimidating. Okay, I had never done that before, but after I did it, I was like, now I know I can do that.
Yeah.
I know what it's like on day 6. I know what it's like on day 7. I know when you really start to stink. I know, like, I know when my feet start to get sore. You find all this stuff out. The only way to find out all this stuff is by experiencing it. So
Yeah. Well, I think is really interesting also is that, you know, a lot of the times when you're hunting more or less from the car, it's easy to, especially as beginners, it's easy to get caught up in disappointment, especially if you're not seeing animals. But you got to remember, for backpack hunting, there's people that just go backpacking for fun.
yeah,
I'm 35 now. I started hunting when I was 29. And when I realized I could hunt black bear in August, in the same 2 weeks before football started, in which I was doing backpacking trips, or, whether it was part of the Pacific Crest Trail, around Mount Rainier, all over the place, when I realized that I could do that and carry a weapon with me, I was like, duh, why haven't I been doing this in my entire life?
right, yeah, yeah,
Because at the end of the day, not only are you getting to pursue an animal and be a participant in nature, you got to enjoy that entire journey and the entire adventure. And I feel like this is where people's mindset truly need to shift when it comes to hunting. That hunting is not pulling the trigger, it's not sending the arrow. It is everything from the planning, the preparation, through the journey, all the way to when you return home with or without an animal. And it's the stories that live on in you that you share with everyone else. And that is being transformed through the primal adventure. That's the beauty of hunting.
yeah. I laugh because there's a lot easier ways to do things, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I have friends, dude. I have friends that don't get it. Like, these guys are straight there are relentless killers. Okay, like when they go out, the cooler comes back heavy. Okay,
Yep.
But when it comes to the backpack hunting thing, they'll do a little bit of backpack hunting, but like they're like, well, yeah, but I don't have to. I can just like go drive over here and go walk out on this point over here and I can see deer or whatever. Like, why would I do that? Why would I do it the hard way? And it's like, I think if you're looking at it like that, you're just kind of missing the point, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And because like you just said, it is the whole, you're looking at the whole, you need to look at the whole picture, and what you're going to get from that. And to me, that is just more rewarding, like going out and it is an experience. Okay.
Yeah, it is the experience.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was talking to a buddy yesterday, and he was talking about a friend of his ended up shooting a state record elk up here, and he drove out of. Well, first off, he was drinking coffee, kind of stretched it back, and was like, "Oh, I guess it's time to go hunting." Drove down the road to a field where there was a pond, and the bull was just drinking water. And 5 minutes after driving down the road, getting out of his car, he shot the bull, and it was over. And even though, as far as the meat goes, fantastic.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but the adventure's missing.
Yeah, dude. I always tell people, if I'm driving down the road and I see a buck, I'm not gonna get out. It's just not. That's just not my style. You know what I mean?
You're not a fan of shooting fish in a barrel?
No, I'm not, man. I'm not. It's just not who I am. I tell people, I would rather backpack in somewhere, or not even backpacking. You don't have to do backpacking. I would rather hike in somewhere a couple miles and hunt 3 bears than go somewhere right off the road and hunt 20.
Yeah.
Okay, just because that's just how I've grown to love to do things. And I don't know if that's because, and you and I, we're not old men, right? But we're not kids either. And
no.
And when I was a kid, I feel like I was more bloodthirsty, if you want to call it that. Okay, like I was like, no, I want to get this done. It doesn't matter how. I don't care if we're driving down the road. I want to kill a deer, and it still never happened. But as I got older, it became more about how, rather than the end result. It became more about the steps I took in order to get to the end rather than just jumping to the end.
I totally get it. I think, so I haven't been married very long. I've been married 6 years, but I met my wife 6 years ago. So I always like to apply it to when you're not looking for a girl, you end up finding a girl.
Yeah, man.
It's kind of like, well, if you're not looking for the kill, you're going to end up finding it. If you're going out for the fun of it and the beauty of it and the excitement of what it is, you're going to end up being rewarded. And I also feel like there's a lot in the power of positive thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And that plays a big role in just the positive energy that we put out into the universe and what we end up getting back from it.
Absolutely, man. How I kind of look at that is like being out there. If you're feeling like down in the dumps, and you're not seeing anything and you're feeling like going home, which all of us have felt that. Okay. But if you're out there and you're feeling that, being out there and doing nothing is better than not being out there at all. Because if you just put yourself into situations, it doesn't matter if you're glassing, you're sitting there glassing, or if you're just sitting there drinking a cup of coffee. But if you are out there, you're opening yourself up to experience.
Oh yeah.
Okay? And if you're not sitting there to accept that invitation, then you're just not going to get it, So just being out there is sometimes all it takes.
Well, the baseball analogy, right? You're never going to get a hit if you never swing the bat, but you'll never get on base if you never actually get up to bat.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's a part of life. Get out and live, ladies and gentlemen. Be active. Live your life. You're not promised tomorrow. Make the most of what you got right now. Yeah,
I think too many people are too worried about, like we were talking about the end result, and they ended up overthinking it. And it's like, you know what, man? Hunting, one thing, a huge lesson that hunting has taught me I have kind of been a control freak for a lot of my life. I overthink things a lot. I overanalyze things. And hunting, sometimes you just need to go with the flow out there.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. That was really hard for me to accept. Um, and being able to go out and, you know what, not have a plan. You know, not having a
Right.
plan was something that drove me absolutely crazy years ago.
Yeah.
But over the years, I've found if you just get out there and wander and you just kind of don't worry about a plan, man. Like, of course, we all have we all have some semblance of a plan, okay? But if it's you don't have to stick to a schedule. Oh, at 9 o'clock, I'm going over here. At 10 o'clock, I'm going to do this. You don't have to do that. If you just kind of wander and drift around, man, and just kind of enjoy what's in front of you, good things end up happening, you know?
Yeah.
So that was something I really had to get over, is being able to just let go. Because if you think about it, that's how our life is in the city, right? Like you get up in the morning, have coffee, whatever, breakfast, go to work, you come home, play with the dog, play with the kids, whatever, have dinner, go to bed, do it again. Like
Yeah.
everything is very choppy. We are creatures of habit, and that shows through in what we do each day. If we were animals, oh, we'd be dead. If we were
Right.
if we were game
We'd be
animals,
patterned so easily.
oh yeah, we'd be patterned so easy. If we were game animals, but so I think that's a healthy part of, you get away from the city, and you that disconnect that you get, dude, that's healthy, because you need to break up the monotony of your, the rat race, if you would. You need to
Yeah.
break that up and get away from that, and turn your cell phone off, and just kind of exist.
Yep. Yeah.
Instead of, you don't always have to be doing something.
Well, see, I think it's one of the beautiful things about hunting is that literally you have to go with the flow. You could have a plan of, I need to be at that finger ridge at this time,
Yep.
but if the wind isn't going in that direction or the thermals aren't working with you, you literally have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Oh yeah, dude. And in my early years, I was the guy that was like, the wind's bad, but maybe it's not that bad. I'm gonna go over there anyway because that's what I'm supposed to do. And I would screw myself a lot out of opportunities because I was sticking to the plan. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I was listening to an East Meets West podcast with Bo Martonic when he was talking with Cody Rich, and he was like, yeah, the first time I went on an elk hunt out in Colorado, he's like, I had it all dialed in and planned. I was like, all right, we're going to be here. We're going to be glassing from this point, from this time, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, dude, I got there, looked at the mountains, and I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
This is not how it's going to go.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's a part of the beauty, man. We need to let go. Life is going to happen with or without our complete grip on it.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well enjoy the ride. Stop white knuckling life. And I think that's where hunting, and especially pursuing hunting outside of a vehicle or off the edges of a road, really can transform your life.
Oh yeah, and you come back, you come back a better person. Like I don't know about you, man, but I can feel it. Like when I haven't been out in the hills for a long time,
Yep.
I get pent up. It's too much city, if you would, and I got to go out and shake the city off.
Yeah, you get the itch.
Yeah, and you got to get out there, and even if I'm just going out there for a hike, like tomorrow, I'm going out, I'm checking out a new bear spot. I'm going to put on a bunch of miles on some boots, and that's it. I'm just going to kind of wander around. I am so excited to do that. Like I don't know where I'm going to end up. I don't know, if I'm going to end up glassing or anything like that, but just getting out there and getting your boots dirty, I think that does a lot for somebody, man.
So beautiful. There was, let's see, it was, man, 2-3 years ago, my parents got divorced, and it was a pretty nasty breakup.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really struggling with their whole separation. Obviously I'm not a child, but at the same time, having your parents separate in the middle of your adult years, and I actually worked with my father and coached football with him at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and we teach in the same school district, and it was just nasty divorce, and I was like, I gotta get my head right. And my wife, she was like, go hunting, get out in the woods. And so during that time, the only thing available was black bear and coyotes. And so I went and took a predator call to the woods and ended up calling in a coyote
Mm-hmm.
and shot that. And I mean, I'm not saying it is the complete medicine or it's even a band-aid,
No.
but I felt better. I felt more at ease. For the first time, I could clear my head and not think about the mess that I had back at home,
Yeah,
you know?
it's yeah, if you need to work stuff out upstairs, um there's it go that goes a long way, getting out there and in what is truly quiet. There is not you're not going to get as quiet as you are in the hills at home. It's not going to happen. There's too much stimulus in the city.
Yeah.
Um, so to truly quiet down and really open your ears, which I think ends up opening your mind to different perspectives because you can finally see through all that crap. Um, I think that's true. That's really helpful. I've worked out a lot of stuff, in my head when I'm just sitting there on a hillside.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's good, man.
I think there's beauty also in trying to pursue it by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And because a lot of the times people use other humans as crutches.
Yep.
And even though we were not meant to be alone and we need community,
Mm-hmm.
we need a healthy community. And sometimes we get distracted. I like to attribute, like, you ever seen the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Oh, yeah.
When Cameron's in the art museum and he's standing like inches away from that painting and all he sees is the dots. But when you stand further back, you see the whole painting and it's like, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like that's what it's like. Life is like in society, and then you go out there in the wilderness by yourself,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you can see the whole picture. And it's like, oh, okay, I know what to do now.
It, you know, it kind of astounds me that some people can't do it. They cannot go out there by themselves and focus.
Yeah,
I have a buddy, and I'm not downplaying him at all, but like he ended up going out by himself for a morning. He was supposed to be out all day. He ended up only hunting for the morning, and he went home. And I talked to him after that. And I was like, "Man, dude, what happened?" He was like, "Yeah, got into some deer in the morning, and then I don't know, man. I couldn't do it." He told me, he's like, I just like the camaraderie of being out there with like you guys or something like that, which I
yeah,
get, which that's a whole nother level of appreciation, like the bonding that you create
yep,
between friends. Because I'm telling you what, if you live in the mountains with somebody for a week, you're either gonna hate them,
or
okay,
you're gonna fall in love with
or
them.
you guys are gonna be the best of friends, man.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. What's funny is I actually am more on the I want to go hunting with a community rather than go by myself. It wasn't until I took my first black bear and I packed it out solo,
Mhm.
which maybe that doesn't sound really odd to people, but it was for the first time in my life. I was in the woods with bears and I had a fear of bears growing up. And so I just happened to shoot my very first one. And
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of conquering these fears and I'm packing out this bear solo. And, you know, I not only was I scared to injure myself on the pack out and then get caught on a trail with no one around, I also missed having people with me.
Yeah.
There's beauty in community, but at the same time, like there was also beauty in being able to challenge who I am and getting over fears. And I think addressing fears is one of the major things in hunting that people need to start acknowledging is a real part of it.
Oh, dude, you're so right, man. Um, Do you remember what it was like when you first laid your hands on them?
Yeah, I was scared.
Because it's a bear.
Yeah. I was so scared.
I was the same way, dude. So I killed a I've told this story many times. I'll just gloss over it. But I killed a mountain lion. I killed a mountain lion before I ever killed a deer. And
Well, hold on. Let me back up real quick. My good friend Josh Kirchner once told me it doesn't matter if someone's written an article about your topic, no one's ever heard it from your perspective. So, my listeners may have never heard this story before, so don't be afraid to reshare this.
All right, I'll give you a sprinkle of it. So I was out bear hunting. This was the first year, the same year that I saw that bear that I talked about in the beginning of the podcast. And during that hunt, I found a lion track. Okay. And lion tags were like $12. I was like, yeah, why not? You know what I mean? I'll grab a lion tag. I never thought I'd see that lion ever. And fast forward that was in August. Fast forward to October, and I'm back in the same area looking for bears, and there's deer everywhere, bucks all over the place, which was great because I had a deer tag later that month, but that doesn't help when I'm hunting bears. So I was there for 8 days by myself, and I was on the phone with my wife, kind of being like, you know what, I'm not seeing any bears. I think I'm going to come home. And she's like, you don't have anything else to do. Just stay there. You know,
Good wife.
I'm telling you, yeah, dude, I'm so grateful, man. She just always tries to push me to pursue my passions and stuff, and that was just a prime example of that. And so I stayed, you know, and the next day I got up and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna kind of walk down this canyon here and kind of hang out, and that's what I did, not having a real plan. Sitting there. There's some deer walking up the hill, no surprise, and then this buck was acting real weird, and then all of a sudden, dude, I just saw heard crashing coming down the hill, and I see this big tail swinging back and forth, and it was a lion, and the lion almost got that buck. Like, it was within 6 inches. Like, it was so close, man.
Wow.
But the deer got away, and then the lion was standing there 200 yards away from me, and I was like, oh, dang, I have a lion tag, you know? So I was so, dude, it was like National Geographic, you know what I mean? I was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. That's the first lion I had ever seen before.
Well, most people go a lifetime without ever seeing one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, before that point, I was in the woods quite a bit, you know, just all through my life with my dad and stuff, and I never saw one. And so I ended up shooting. I shot the lion. The lion did a flip, which was insane. And then I was like, screw this. I'm going to just keep shooting until, you know, I don't want to lose the lion. So I shot again, missed, shot again. The lion did another flip, and then the lion ran over this ridge. And I was like, man, what just happened? You know, and I couldn't get anybody to come up there to help me track the lion. So this was the first time I had ever blood trailed anything before. So I went off myself, had to make this big 3-mile loop, go around, because I couldn't just cross the canyon because it was a bluff, and got over there and found blood. I'm following blood, and then I just find a big pool and the blood stops. And I looked around for like 5 minutes or so. I'm like, man, where'd he go? And I look up and I see this tail flinging in the air, you know, and the lion was probably 50 yards up ahead of me, laying underneath a tree, licking itself. And,
oh, wow.
And it was facing away from me. Okay. So didn't know I was there. So like I said, I never saw a lion before. So I just kind of sat there and took it in a little bit, and then brought the crosshairs up, put it right between the shoulder blades, pulled the trigger, and the lion was dead in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about being freaked out about touching something?
You thought like all of a sudden it was going to wake up and pounce on you.
if I had $1 for every rock I threw at that lion before I touched it, I would be able to bring my wife out to dinner. Okay.
Right. There wasn't a stick long enough.
Yeah. So I also had never gutted something before. Like this whole thing, like never skinned anything before. This all happened first with a mountain lion for me.
Wow.
And so I did all that. Of course, I was terrified because I knew there was bears around, and I'm sitting there with guts right next to me, wondering if a bear's going to come barreling in on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you have to pack out 2 animals.
Right, exactly, which I didn't even know how to pack out one. So that's another story, is this experience made me take the leap to buy an actual backpack. I had this it was basically a glorified Jan Sport. Okay, like it was camo, but like there was no frame in it, nothing. And I dragged that lion all the way back to the truck. I got the hide sit right next to me right now, and the shoulder blades have no hair on them because I dragged it all the way back the whole way to the truck.
Wow.
And got it skinned, put it in the cooler. I'm telling you, dude, when I drove away from that, the feeling I had when I was driving away from that, I was like, that right there is a feeling that I will forever chase.
Yeah.
The biggest feeling of accomplishment I had ever felt. The most wild thing, it was one of those situations where it was like, okay, well, I got to go do this.
Yep.
Because I shot and I'm not going to leave.
Yeah, get your hard hat and lunch pail. It's time to go to work.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just one of those, just a super, super special experience to me. And goes back to the whole thing that I was saying before about I was going to leave. You know what I mean? If I would have left, that I would have never got that. And that did a lot for me. I have no idea what you asked me before that, but that was kind of a long-winded version of that. But yeah, so that was a
beautiful.
really cool experience.
I'll tell you, we were talking about fear.
Okay.
Fear within the hunting, and then really what now you just talked about is courage.
Okay. Yeah. So now, okay, after that, the first time I ever did a solo backpack hunt, that I tried to talk myself out of doing that because I was scared, and it was for bear, and I came up with all sorts of stuff like, oh, I don't know, like looks like the weather might come in, you know what I mean? No, it's a weekend, there's probably going to be a bunch of people there, but just all sorts of stuff, you know what I mean? I went, I was like, screw this, I'm going, because you are the only person that holds you back. Like
yeah.
You got to get over yourself,
Yep.
and then you will mentally prosper from that. And so I went out and got packed in. It was 5 miles to get to the basin that I was going to hunt, that I'd never been there before. Found a big bear at last light. Didn't have time to get over there. I was bow hunting, so I would have had to make a huge loop on him. I was bow hunting. I found him again the next morning. Now, through the night, though, dude, being out there by myself and in bear country, that was an experience. Like the first time I did that.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about quiet? That's real quiet. Like almost too quiet, like to the point where you got to cover your ears, because you're just coming up with all sorts of things that could happen. And I actually ended up having a dream that night that a bear walked over my tent, and I woke up real fast, dude. So some of these pads, like these sleeping pads, they're kind of loud, right?
Yep.
Well, I fell off my pad, okay? So that noise, dude, I shot up like lightning, man. Like, whoa, like thinking that this thing, and at the same time I was having that dream. And I was like, okay, everything's fine. And then I woke up, was so pumped that I did that. Found the bear again. I didn't make a run at him because, again, I never did it before. I was by myself in that area. It would have been, I was doing the math, like 35 miles of hiking with weight. Like, if I would have went after that bear by myself, I look at it now and I'm like, man, I should have went after that bear. But back then, I just wasn't there mentally yet, and that's fine. But then fast forward to this year. So I went and I did the same thing. Totally comfortable, but in the middle of the night, I'm laying there, okay, and I was sleeping with my vestibule open. Okay, so I had the just the screen so I could see out. I was trying to avoid getting condensation. Is why I did that. So I'm sleeping, and then I hear right next to my head. Okay, right next to my head, and I have a handgun right next to me. So I'm just calm. I grab my handgun and I'm just looking outside the tent. Did my shelter, just waiting to see some big black thing walk in my view. And then I hear, ow, ow. And I was like, oh, okay, good. It's a fox.
Oh, man.
He was just mad that he ran into my tent. He just squawked at me for probably 10 minutes and then walked off. But that stuff right there, that's so exciting. You know what I mean? Like, you go out there and I didn't even see a bear on that trip. I got back to the truck. I'm like, heck yeah, that was rad.
It made the trip and made the experience.
Yeah, man.
I think one of the biggest gains that I've made in my hunting journey is the moment in which I have felt no more joy or excitement over the fact that every time in the last year when I've gone out to hunt any specific animal, I've at least seen that specific animal. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, cool. I'm satisfied.
Right.
There's, like, at least I know how to find them.
Yeah, no, it lets you know you're doing something right. Because if you're not seeing them, it doesn't matter how many times that you've found that animal in the past. If you're not seeing them, you ultimately start questioning your ability. Yeah. Like, wait a minute, was I just seeing stuff in the past because I kept just going back to my old areas, and I didn't truly know why I was seeing those animals. Mm-hmm. And then you start being like, and that'll drive you home too. That's done it to me when I was starting out and stuff. I just get discouraged, and it's like, man, I have left early on hunts way more times than I would like to admit. And all of those, it all happened in the first probably 3 years of my hunting, like real, like hunting a lot. Which is kind of funny. I don't know if you thought this when you started hunting, but like, so I used to look at hunting as like a once a year thing. And then like
it's not.
And then
it changes.
And then like when I got into it more, I was like, okay, bear season's in August. I'm gonna start scouting in June. Then it turned into a 3-month thing. Okay. Well, there's another bear season in October, so I better keep scouting between August and October as well if I don't get a bear.
Yep.
But well, the rifle deer season's at the end of October. I got to get out and scout for that after I go on that bear hunt. Well,
it just keeps going and going and going.
Deer opens up mid-December, and then pretty soon, like, you're doing stuff every single month of the year, and you're doing it year round. And for me, like, I have no problem with that, because how I look at that is there's people, like, everyone's got their thing, right? Like, some guys are really into working on cars and stuff, and some guys are really into playing pool. My thing is bow hunting. Like, that's what I'm really into. It's just what makes me tick, and that's, I don't go spend a bunch of money on clothes or in the club or anything like that. Like, all of the stuff that I buy for myself, it's all hunting stuff. You know what I mean? It's me saving up for out-of-state tags. It's me buying arrows when I need arrows. Like, it's all that. It's just the whole picture,
Yeah. And like, I just dove into the camera world,
Oh, jeez.
You gotta take those memories home with you, right?
Oh, it's so important. It's so important, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole, isn't it?
Oh man. Yes, it is.
You were talking to me a couple weeks ago, right? And about getting a camera, and then you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get this one." I'm like, "Yeah, maybe you shouldn't get that." And then you're like, "Yeah, but he's offering this." And like, I don't know. And then like you didn't get it, and then you texted me yesterday or something, and you said that you got the A7 III. I'm like,
Yep.
"That's the one you did good." There you go.
Yeah, I've always been somebody who would rather buy what I truly want the first time rather than go through multiple experiences.
That
And I was like, oh man,
that's why
that's a lot of money.
dude. That's why I was being hesitant with you, because I knew
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you're gonna go get the other one eventually. Like, you just got to get over it, like that was a big thing too, right? When you get into this backpack hunting thing, when I first started, I was like, I'm never spending X amount of dollars on a sleeping bag ever.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. When you go on your first backpack hunt, the first thing that you're going to think about when you're walking into your camp is how you can get your backpack lighter.
Yeah.
Okay. And all those little things, you're like, you know what? Maybe I will spend $300 on a sleeping bag. like,
Right.
because
There's a reason why ounces really make a difference.
yeah, absolutely. Like between like saving more space in your backpack and like and having a lighter load, which makes you be able to go longer and you're not as sore. It doesn't beat you up as much. Maybe you could bring a little more food with you because your sleeping bag is smaller. So yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's hilarious. Going back to the camera thing, I wanted this better camera specifically for the battery life because I know how heavy batteries are.
Yep.
I was like, man, when I'm in the woods, I am not trying to lug around a bunch of extra batteries.
Yep.
So that extra price
Yeah.
costs a little bit more.
Yeah, convenient. You pay for convenience,
Yep, that's the truth. All right, so let's get into archery.
Oh, man.
You are the dialed-in hunter.
Oh, get out of here.
You read Cameron Haynes' Backcountry Bow Hunting. You got captivated by archery. Take us through it. Why? How?
So the first time when I was a kid, I was probably 12 when I first shot a bow. And the first time I ever did that, my eyes turned into saucers, dude. Like, just because I couldn't believe how fast, and back then it wasn't fast, okay? But I couldn't believe how fast the arrow got to the target. So even though I may not have been bow hunting a ton when I was a kid, I was shooting the bow that my dad let me use in the backyard. That was like something I did when I was bored. And then fast forward, and out here in Arizona, we have a very liberal archery deer season. You can hunt all of January during the rut. You can hunt mid-August to mid-September for velvet bucks, and then you can hunt last half of December. That's all on the same tag.
That's cool.
And you can hunt coos deer or mule deer during that. The tag is not species specific. So being out there a lot and getting all these opportunities bow hunting, I just kind of looked at the experiences that I was getting from that. I just had so many cool experiences when I was bow hunting. And then I remember I killed my first deer with a rifle, and granted, okay, now I wasn't like looking for a big buck or anything like that, okay? But I killed that deer about 10 minutes into the hunt, okay? And that was it. It was done. Deer walked out, boom, dead. So the bow hunting thing really latched onto me because it's hard. It's real hard. And it was something that I was like, I know, like, this is it. Sometimes it seems impossible, which kind of annoys me and drives me to try harder, because I know it's not impossible. And it's like
Right.
how I look at it. I was like, all these other guys out there, they're being successful. I know I can do it. And it gave me something to really, really work at. And that's when I started really getting into, I started shooting my bow a ton, every day, trying to stretch the yardage, get out to 100 plus yards shooting my arrows. And pretty soon the bow hunting thing kind of became like a lifestyle almost for me, because everything I did, it revolved around bow hunting. I wasn't going to the rifle range a lot, you know. Like I've never been one to long to shoot my rifle. And I know not everybody's like that, but just for me personally, I truly love carrying a bow. I love shooting a bow. I love what bow hunting, the whole picture of what that entails. Finding the animals. I started, when I started bow hunting, I started finding a lot of animals. But just because I was finding animals, it never worked out. Okay. Which then drove me to start learning more about those animals. Bears in particular, I started looking at like game and fish biology reports of black bears, like their habits and stuff like that. What degree slopes they hang out on, how far away from roads do they tend to be found, how far from water do they tend to hang out. All that stuff I think is super important. I think that's stuff that people need to, you need to be paying attention to that, okay? Because now, no offense, okay? I hope you don't get any hate for this. No offense. Sitting there in the gym and curling dumbbells is not going to make you a good hunter.
Yeah,
okay?
That's true.
Okay, like
you gotta practice hunting to be a good hunter.
Right. And I love, like, I'm a guy, I love going to the gym, okay? I love it. I love the whole fitness thing, but just going to the gym, that's not going to make you good. You need to actually take an interest in the animals you're pursuing and in your art. Like, you're a craftsman. You know,
Yep.
you need to be good at your craft, which is, if you want to be a good bow hunter, the only way to get good at bow hunting is to kill stuff with a bow.
Yeah.
That's it. And in order to do that, you need to be proficient shot. You need to be able to, you know, your stalking skills. Like I would stalk. I remember stalking my dogs in the backyard, like just for practice. I remember
with your bow in your hand.
No. Just that'd be so, like, my wife would be like, "What are you doing?" No.
Fido, come here.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Like stalking cottontail rabbits. I did that a lot too. Like
that's tough.
Paying attention when you're walking around, like what types of rocks make noise when you put your foot on them.
Yeah.
Okay. All that stuff is all like part of the formula to be successful at spot and stock bow hunting. And because of it, there's so much that surrounds it. That's what really hooked me, man. And I remember when I killed my first animal with a bow, it was a javelina, which is kind of like it's a weird critter. It's like a pig, like rat, bear looking. It's just real weird. It's it looks like a pig. But I got to 25 yards of that. And before that, in that season, I missed 8 times. Okay. I missed, I believe it was 6 times on javelina, and then I missed 2 mule deer. And then I finally, on the 9th try, I double lunged a javelina at 25 yards. And after I did that, I was like, oh man, this is going to be real hard picking up a rifle again.
Yeah.
You know, just because of the satisfaction and how rewarding it was after all of that hard work. Whereas you compare that to the story I told before about the deer, you know, 10 minutes into the hunt. Like I said, like I wasn't looking for a big buck. I just wanted to get my first deer. So like it stepped out and it's like, I'm here deer hunting. There's a deer. So I shot the deer. Yeah. Okay. It was a spike coos buck. I was super pumped on it. And the same thing happened with my first black bear. Sitting on a point, sat there for 30 minutes. Bear walked out. Boom. Done.
Game over.
So when I introduced bow hunting into all this, it's like, okay, there's the animal. Now what do I got to do?
It extends your game a lot more.
Yeah, you gotta be on your A game with everything, you know. And the experiences that you have up close like that,
they're special.
Absolutely irreplaceable. I was fortunate enough to shoot my first archery bear last year, and I don't know if I told you this story, but I glassed up a boar mounting a sow. Okay. So
Always will catch you off guard.
right, a little bit, yeah. So I saw that, and after a couple minutes, like they weren't going anywhere, and I'm like, man, my brother's name's Jake. I was like, Jake, I think I'm gonna run down there after this bear. They're not going anywhere, you know. So I went down there, and it was a super steep canyon, you know, straight up, straight down, hanging onto trees to get down there. And they were on this little ridge in the middle of this big drainage. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to get on that ridge and then just kind of come down on top of them and just kind of sneak down there and see what happens. And I got in and I got to the top of the ridge and I'm walking. And the whole time I'm thinking this boar is going to come charging down the hill at me, you know, because he thinks I'm another bear and he wants to keep me away from his sow.
Right.
So that was kind of nerve wracking. But I get up on this ridge and I start working my way down, and then I see it's kind of funny. I see the bush shaking up ahead of me, and I was like, man, it's not that windy. And then I start hearing up ahead of me, and I ranged that bush and it was at 40 yards. And I was like, man, and I see some black, and I was like, holy crap, that's them. And there was a big fallen tree that they were behind, and it covered up their eyes, so they couldn't see me. So I kept moving forward, and I got to 25 yards, and I stood there at 25 yards for about 15 minutes watching this sow try to get away from this boar that was mounting her. And the sow was trying to get away, and the boar would like grab the back of her head with his teeth and like push her down into the tree. Like he had her like pinned down, would not let her go.
Yeah.
And then after that amount of time, the sow broke free and goes over to my right. Boar walks away, sits down on his butt like a dog, and is sitting there panting. And I'm like, okay, cool. I draw my bow back, but I just had a wrong angle on him. He was quartering to me, so his front leg was, you know, blocking his vitals. And then I stepped on a pine cone because I was trying to get a different angle, and he caught me, and he stands up on his hind legs. So I draw my bow. I let down when that happened. I drew my bow back again, came to full draw on him, but I still didn't have a good angle. I put my bow back down, and then he starts coming towards me. And he gets up on that fallen tree that they were behind, and I don't have a shot because his head's down. He's kind of covering up his chest, so I couldn't shoot then. And then he gets up fully on the tree and starts walking broadside. And I come to full draw and shoot, and he did a monkey flip off of the tree and goes running down the hill. And then my first instinct was I grabbed my handgun because I knew the sow was still off to my right. And
right.
So she comes out at 10 yards looking at me. And I was like, get out of here, blah, blah, blah. And I threw a rock at her, and she didn't move. And then what I ended up doing was I put my hands up in the air and I walked straight at her, and I started yelling at her. And then like when she saw what I was, she was like, you know, like, and then just booked it down the hill. But that was my first archery bear harvest.
Wow.
Just that whole, and so you see all that, like I would not have gotten that because where the bear was, he was at 400 yards. I could have shot him with a rifle right there.
Yeah.
Okay. But like having to go down there and get in on those bears and experience that whole thing, man, what an experience. And I think something that a lot of bow hunters do, or I should say they don't do, is they don't go. Like for some reason they'll talk themselves out of going on a stalk. Man, all you got to do is just go over there. Okay? Like you don't know how that's going to play out until you go over there. And you might go over there and you might spook them, but hey, that's hunting.
Hey, man, you got to live that full send life.
Yeah, dude, just go. You just need to go.
So let me ask you this right here.
Yeah.
Do you feel like bow hunting's made you a better person?
Dude, Oh man. Yeah, because it's taught me sacrifice reward.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the biggest thing it has taught me. It's also taught me patience. Because remember what I was saying before about like how like I was super control freaky, like about having a plan and stuff like that.
Yep.
Dude, bow hunting has really taught me that I need to take opportunity when opportunity is given. Okay, whether that's a boar mounting a sow, or another time I was sitting down at the bottom of a canyon on this water source and I look up and there's a boar feeding on acorns about 200 yards up on a bluff, but in order to get to him I have to bomb up straight up out of the canyon and climb a cliff to get out of it, make a big loop around and come up over the top of him. I missed that bear twice, okay, but had I not taken the initiative to go do that, I wouldn't be able to sit here and tell you about it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's so true.
which is, I think you can apply that to anything in life. Like, if you want to get like a new job, like if you want to go get that new job, I know it sounds funny, but you just need to send it.
Send it, baby. Hashtag send it.
It sounds funny, but like that, it's the truth. You need to go for it, man. You can't just sit there and hope things are going to come to you.
Yeah. You got to take action in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's all about movement. Either you're getting better or you're getting worse. Either you're moving forward or you're moving backwards.
Yep.
You know, you can't just sit there because everything else is going to continue on. And therefore, just through that action or inaction, you're falling behind.
Yeah, and you're denying yourself the glory of that experience by doing that.
Yep. Absolutely.
You're holding yourself back, which then in turn causes you to not progress in whatever you're talking about. If you're talking about hunting, if you don't go on that stock, that's one less stock that you learned from.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't matter if you shot the animal or not.
No, because it's about the adventure. It's about the story. It's about living your life and just getting out there.
Yeah, man.
Love it. Dude, Josh, thanks for joining us today, man. I really appreciate it. How can these listeners find out more about you or get connected with you?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You just got to search Dialed In Hunter and you can find me there. Feel free. You know, I love chatting with people, especially new hunters that have questions about stuff. I love helping people out, giving them insight. And then I also run my website, the blog, dialedinhunter.com. So
yeah, awesome. I'm a subscriber. I follow along. Every time he posts an article, I get a notification. So all you listeners out there, make sure to go check it out as well.
I appreciate that, dude.
Heck yeah, and we're really excited to see what the season has in store for you. And going to be following along on Instagram and everything else that you're putting out.
Yeah, it's going to be a whirlwind. It's going to be super busy. I have I'm actually fortunate enough this year I'm taking about 2.5 months off work, and I'm going to be writing my face off for the first month. But then once August hits, I got a Utah archery mule deer tag that I'm going to do a backcountry hunt on that for a week. And then I come back for a day, and then I leave again for another 5 days for our fall bear hunt. And I'm home for a week, and then I leave the first 10 days of September for I drew a mule deer tag in Colorado as well, and I'm getting a bear tag. So it's going to be a vision quest.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to do another episode and talk about out-of-state hunting and also why that's such an adventure.
I'd be happy to. Anytime you want to talk, man, I'm down.
Well, once again, thanks, Josh, for joining us tonight. And you're an amazing person, and have a great night.
I appreciate that, Johnny. I really appreciate you having me on and chatting.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast, as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.